Welcome to Wild Ohio Podcast. Today, we are going to be talking with Jim Quinlivan on this special episode about wildlife officers and the profession of being a wildlife officer in the state of Ohio. Jim is one of our program administrators for law enforcement. Today, I also have
Jordan Phillips,
Abby Rodebeck,
and we're going to get right into it. Jim, thank you for coming on the podcast today.
welcome.
Thank you. Excited to be here.
So I think the best place to start is a little bit of background about you and what your position is and what you do for the Division of Wildlife.
and how you got there.
Yeah.
Sure. I could talk for hours, but I won't. So
That's good.
I've been with the Division of Wildlife for almost 30 years, almost all of that time in wildlife law enforcement. I've had the great opportunity to start as a wildlife officer assigned to Cuyahoga County in northeast Ohio, and then work as an investigator, then supervising our law enforcement group in central Ohio, wildlife officers in 13 counties, and then have been at our headquarters with several positions. Most of the time at headquarters, I have been responsible for the recruiting, hiring, and training of our new wildlife officers and our cadet program.
So what brought you personally to the Division of Wildlife?
Well, I saw this job as a wildlife officer, and really I'm hesitant to call it a job. And I think as we'll talk more about it, it's not a job, it's a career, it's a calling. I always had an interest in the outdoors growing up. I grew up in northwest Ohio in Maumee, spent a lot of my youth outside. I lived on a cul-de-sac, and I later realized that it was a ditch that I was playing in. But like a lot of kids, that the stream and the woods was what drew me there. I grew up fishing the Maumee River, taught myself hunting and fishing. I did not have a lot of mentorship in that growing up. My parents supported me in all of my interests, but that outdoor interest, maybe like a lot of people today, I had to develop myself. Went to Ohio State University, studied wildlife management there, and then eventually moved out west to work for the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. But when I heard about the wildlife officer career in Ohio, where I could blend my interest in the outdoors also with the public service aspect of law enforcement, I thought this is an opportunity for me.
So what year did you go into the academy?
Ancient history now. So 1996, I was part of the 20th Wildlife Officer Academy.
And we're getting ready to begin our 33rd, correct?
Yes.
So let's delve into a little bit of what a wildlife officer is, what that job entails. I know there's a lot of stuff within that, but let's unpack what a wildlife officer does.
Ohio's wildlife officers have a diversity of duties, and I think that's what appeals to a lot of people about the opportunity. Mostly their primary role is law enforcement, but it focuses on wildlife law enforcement, wildlife and natural resources, our wildlife areas, fish and wildlife conservation in Ohio, and the rules and regulations that go into that. They also get a great opportunity to work in conservation with our wildlife biologists, our fisheries biologists. They know where every bald eagle, black bear, river otter is. And then they're also involved in the public service aspect. Really, our wildlife officers tend to be the face of our agency. They are very visible. They are out there in media. Communications is very important for their job, so that lends them to be a very important part of the Division of Wildlife.
Yeah, we've talked on different episodes. We've touched about counties. So we have one officer per county in the state of Ohio. Then we have other positions you can move up to: administration, supervisors, investigators. But that county base level is very important. Like you said, it's the face of the Division of Wildlife. When people have calls and conflicts or issues, they call the county wildlife officer. So it's a go-to position for sure. So in all of that, is there any key point that when we're looking for folks who might be interested in this career that they have to bring to the table if they're interested in becoming a wildlife officer? Is there anything they must have?
Well, we love for people who, number one, have an interest in the outdoors and conservation, because as we know, that's our mission. Most people do have that interest, and then also if they have an interest in the service aspect, law enforcement, the training, and the public safety component. So generally, you look for people that want to blend both of those together. In terms of background, given that this is a state law enforcement position for a state agency, we are looking for people of good character, with a good background, somebody who's a self-starter and can also bring all that to the table.
So I think one of the benefits when we look at these cadets and these wildlife officers is we provide a plethora of training as well. So while, you discussed some of those things as being kind of the desired participant or cadet walking through the door, you don't have to have those things, I guess is the point that I'd like to make, because we can get you up to speed on a number of things, correct?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so Jordan and I help with the R3 facilitation.
Yeah.
So Jordan, you can speak better. That's what you do is R3, so you can talk a little bit about that if you want.
Yeah, so we take our cadets through a week-long training, week and a half actually, where we're talking about the history of conservation as a nation, the North American model as it pertains to Ohio. We're looking at species-specific pursuits that the officers, cadets, what they're going to see in the field, identification of different kinds of methods of take, and also verbiage. So if you're new to hunting, you're new to angling, you're new to the outdoors, there's a lot to learn, but we really try and get you up to speed so you feel comfortable in the field.
Yeah, I think we can talk more about training, especially towards the end. We have some special stuff that we'd like to bring up about the career path, but we get excellent training. I know Q and I have been through it all through the years. We go through different session trainings. Oh, I did it. I called you Q. No, let's talk about it. So in the early part here, we talked, this is Jim Quinlivan. So Jim is this program administrator. He helps facilitate our new officers. And there's a little bit of a gimme. Once you get through the academy, we get to call him Q. Is that correct? Is that the guideline? I don't know when I finally got to call you Q. I had to maybe have 5 years on before I was allowed to.
John had to work a little harder.
I had to work harder.
I don't even think he can call you that now, really, can he?
I don't think it's been approved yet.
Yeah.
But John, we're getting close.
I'm getting away with it right now.
Lowercase.
Yeah.
So, yeah, my nickname Q, goes back to playing sports when tough for people to pronounce Quinlivan. But for our cadets that finish up, no problem with calling me Q. Post academy.
He says with a smile.
Yeah. So what I was trying to get at, I apologize for that side note, is with the trainings, we are going to provide anything and everything. When people talk to me about wanting to become a wildlife officer, they say, what should I be doing to prepare? And I said, well, what are you doing now? Are you seeking that proper education? Are you hitting the notes that we need you to hit for just the sheer application process? Because if you come to the job with the desire to be a wildlife officer and the go-to attitude that you're going to go to a county, we're going to give you a gun, a badge, and a truck, and we're going to expect you to do the job. And if you have that attitude, I think we can make a wildlife officer out of you.
Sky's the limit, right?
Yeah, I think so. What do you think, Q? You think that's a good nutshell?
Yes, having that drive is important. This is a very competitive position, but I have found that those that really have that interest, no matter how many people apply or want to be part of it, those people are usually successful. And we do tend to hire some really good people who are with us for their entire career with the Division of Wildlife.
So why we're having this special episode is let's get into the nuts and bolts of the application process, hiring, but why are we holding this special episode? We are having a new academy class going to start when?
Yes, exciting time because we will be starting the hiring process for another cadet academy later this winter. November, December of this year is when the cadet job posting will be out, and then people can officially apply.
So before the application process starts, what are some things, and we can retouch on these, but what are some things folks can do to stay in the know or in the loop on that information as it's coming out from the Ohio Division of Wildlife.
One of the most important things people can do is get added to our recruiting list. And that way we keep in touch with them. We tell them the job posting is coming out. We give them tips. We send them information. And you can just be added to that by contacting us at Wildlife Officer Recruiting, all one word, at ohiodnr.gov. You can also call 1-800-WILDLIFE. We make it pretty simple and ask to be added to the Wildlife Officer Cadet recruiting list. But people can be preparing now, making sure that they're qualified and ask questions, meet with officers, and start to gather that information to decide, is this an opportunity for me? And I think it will be for a lot of people.
John, when you are out and about in Fayette County, do you get a lot of questions from people on what it's like to be an officer and how to go about?
I think the two most common things that people say, and this is my experience, I would think many other officers have it, is, I would love to do what you do. How can I become a wildlife officer? And then from some folks, it's like, I wish I would have done what you did, who are probably at the end of their career or whatever. But that's what we get a lot. And when someone does come to us and say, hey, how do I become a wildlife officer? I send them to the website, because that opportunity is there for all sorts of folks. But you said something, Q, about the qualifications. So that's also on our website, all the minimum qualifications to apply for the job.
Well, I'd kind of like to go through the timeline. I've seen this from afar, and the daily responsibilities of an officer are changing every single day. I can't imagine that there's very many mornings you wake up and you're going to do the same thing you did the day before. But there's a whole process to this recruitment. There's a whole process to the application period. And then there's a whole process, I know just from John, our friendship, of going through that academy and building that brotherhood, that sisterhood with your fellow officers. So can you guys walk Abby and I through what does that look like?
So after you apply, we'll start at the application. So the application is a state application. You would go online, you meet those minimum qualifications, and you apply. That's when I talk about the roller coaster ride beginning. So if you've put effort into it, you've done what Jim's talked about, going through, getting on the website, having that information, hitting all those high points, you're invested. So you're excited about that application. So your hopes are up, but you're also probably a little nervous about what's the next step. Am I going to get through the application process? And again, that's the first hill of the roller coaster. So after applications, those folks would be receiving email notifications.
Yes, so they'll apply once the cadet position is posted. And like any professional position, we do have some minimum qualifications. Those are largely educational or experience. So we ask that people have a minimum of your core coursework done. You can be working toward your degree, or if you already have your degree, an associate's degree would be the minimum, or at least your core coursework done, so about 18 months of college in some of the fields that we accept. And they are somewhat broad. We're obviously going to accept criminal justice, law enforcement backgrounds, wildlife, natural resources, environmental sciences, any of the biological or physical sciences, biology, ecology would also be acceptable, agriculture, or people can have 18 months experience in any of those fields. And again, on our website, a complete list of the education we accept, but we have many people that perhaps were working professionally. Maybe they were a law enforcement officer for a time. Maybe they were a wildlife or fisheries professional. That education and that experience is also going to help them. Many people have a combination, as well as military experience if it was in criminal justice or law enforcement. That would also qualify you.
So someone can be mid-career in another field and decide to make a switch and come over and hang out with us.
Oh, absolutely.
Yes. And I think that's important to note. We get a lot of applicants who recently finished college. Maybe they have some experience, but more and more we're seeing a lot of cadets that they found this job and said, boy, like you said, John, where has this been? I just discovered this opportunity, and they want to make a change. Maybe they're coming from another law enforcement agency. Maybe they were in the private sector in some other position, but they're qualified and they decide this is really what I want to do.
So after the application, the email comes back, their first invite to come see us is for the proficiency test.
Yes.
So can you tell us a little bit about the proficiency test?
So for everybody that meets our qualifications, you'll get an invitation to come take our wildlife officer proficiency test. It's a written test, and it covers a variety of topics from conservation to general information on law enforcement, wildlife in Ohio. And again, this is something that people can prepare for. Probably their education or experience helps them a little bit. And then the people that score the top or a certain level on our test, you'll get an interview where you sit down with some of our wildlife staff and we'll learn more about you, what your interests are, what your background is, and then people that do well enough on the interview, they'll be advanced further in the process for more testing, and we'll eventually get down to our final cadet group.
Do we have a number on what we're hoping to hire in this new academy?
We'd like to hire approximately 12 to 15 cadets, but again, we're looking for the best people, so we're a little flexible.
Yeah, so I guess that's one thing that, like, when I talk to the general public about how this career works, they say people think of sheriff's departments or police departments that might be constantly hiring folks, but we're on this rotation. Can you give us a little background on why we're on that bit of a rotation?
Yes. So this next cadet class, and it's part of the Division of Wildlife and our planning process, we're actually, as you said, we don't hire every year. That's probably a good thing because we are typically well-staffed. We have officers in most assignments. We don't have a lot of turnover, which I think is a sign of a good agency and a good career. So we tend to hire as needed. Generally, every other year, every 2 years, we'll look to have a cadet class to fill vacancies from promotions or retirements, and that's coming up this year.
So we've got through the proficiency test, and we've got through the interview. Now we're getting into some of that other stuff, but we also have the physical fitness portion of that, which is partly imposed by our agency, but also once they get into the academy portion, the OPATA standard is also going to be important, correct?
Yes. So the fitness and swim test, that is a component that is required. I think most people would agree in law enforcement, there's an expectation of physical fitness. Our officers also work on the water, around the water. So there is a swim test. And again, I don't want to say that this is not a Navy SEAL swim test, as it were, but there is a component to both of those that people can prepare for. And there is a standard that people have to meet. It's not extravagant, but it would require people to be prepared, and it is important. And you mentioned the Law Enforcement Academy, John. So we will have applicants who already have that certification in law enforcement. Maybe they were with another agency. Maybe they've already attended a peace officer academy. And as long as that's in good standing, you wouldn't have to repeat that basic academy again. Most of our cadets don't have a law enforcement background. We will provide all that training. I'd like to tell our cadets that really, when you're hired, you need socks and underwear, and we tend to provide everything else, whether you need that law enforcement certification or not.
OPATA means what?
Ohio Peace Officer Training Academy. The academy or the commission under the Attorney General's office, that's the agency that regulates law enforcement certification in Ohio.
Gotcha.
Where can folks find the standard? To full disclosure, the fit test had me nervous when I applied, and I was 22 years old, and it just stressed me out. Now, granted, I got in. It wasn't the barrier that kept me in or out, but it was something on my mind. I know it's probably on a lot of people's minds. Where can they find the information? Is that all on our website too, on what they need to meet?
Yes, at our wildlife officer page. You can also contact us at our recruiting email, 1-800-WILDLIFE, and I will send anybody the fitness and swim standards, very easy to understand, so they can start preparing now.
And it's in a chart system. Their age bracket depends on the numbers of what you need to do and stuff.
Yes, our standards very similar to the the state of Ohio standards for age, and the amount or the standards for the physical exercises and the swim test. The swim test, 100 yards in 5 minutes, tread water for 5 minutes unassisted. So again, we're not talking
It's achievable. It's
an Olympic swimming test, but you need to be prepared and be comfortable.
The treading water had me nervous, and I spent some time in a pool to do it, but really, it's something I think everybody should probably try to work on doing. We do some further to jump ahead later on, and we can do some different trainings that do a little more intense water training and teaches you that there are things you can definitely get through when in the water, when you have all the duty gear on and stuff like that. But get back to the hiring process, so they get through all of that, and if they make it through all of that, is there anything else that they need to hit before they get that all important email? Hey, you are potentially going to the academy.
Yes. So there are a few other steps in the process. And again, these mirror a lot of law enforcement standards for many agencies. Will conduct a background check because, again, like we talked about at the beginning, we want people of high character. Everybody makes mistakes in their life. Certainly I did. And the Division of Wildlife is not looking to hire people that are, perfect, but this is a law enforcement position. You are going to be out front in the face of our agency. So we do want to hire people of good character, and it is competitive. There'll be things like a drug screening, for example. Again, shouldn't be surprising to anybody wanting to work in this professional field. And then once we agree on our cadet group, 12 to 15 people, they'll get an opportunity and a start date, and they'll become state of Ohio employees, wildlife officer cadets.
Now we're in the academy portion, and I like what you said, that you tell them underwear and socks, because that's kind of how I remember it being. Here's your uniform, here's your gear, here's stuff. Just constantly, it was almost overwhelming with the amount of things that we got thrown at us right away, which don't let that discourage anybody either, because it's a good overwhelming.
Right.
You're being taken care of, and the academy starts. And so where do we hold our academies?
The Peace Officer Academy, for those that need that law enforcement training, we partner with the Ohio State Highway Patrol here in Columbus. We enroll all of our cadets into their basic law enforcement training. We actually help teach some of that. We're very involved, but all of our cadets will go through that program for about 22 weeks. Those cadets that need that training. Those that don't, you'll be assigned at a district where your focus will be on learning a little bit about the Division of Wildlife, Fisheries, Wildlife, some law enforcement administration. And then once all that is done, we bring all of our cadets back together for our wildlife officer specific training, which, having gone through that, John and Jordan having taught, and Abby in that academy, that part of our training process, it's a lot of fun.
That's the fun part. Yeah, the OPATA part, the peace officer training is definitely necessary and it's important. But when you get to the wildlife officer portion, that's where you're really getting to the nuts and bolts of the agency and what you get to do.
It becomes kind of an all
officer.
hands on deck endeavor for everybody, right? Because we all come in and we talk about the different things we do and wildlife management does, all of that.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. I think that speaks to why I hope people are interested in this career, because you're going to be exposed to everything that the Division of Wildlife is involved in. We have a hype video on our YouTube channel about the Division of Wildlife. If people have an opportunity to watch that, really anything you see about the Ohio Division of Wildlife, you, as a wildlife officer, you could think, I'm going to be involved in that somehow as part of my job, which I think is really important. And in our wildlife officer specific training, all sections, wildlife, fisheries, communications, business, you hear from our chief and assistant chiefs. That's when we start to really give you some of the background you need to be successful. And like you said, John, another huge benefit, the equipment, the uniforms, the gear, all that, we're making a huge investment in these cadets, in our new officers. So there are some high expectations for this academy, but for those that complete the training, they'll be fully prepared and equipped to start the job on day one.
So I'm going to jump in. I don't want to get ahead of myself here, so stop me if I am. So I've gone through all of these scenarios that we've just discussed, and I've finished my 22 weeks in the academy. One of the things that I saw that we did last year that was new, that I was really proud of, and I hope that you guys can speak on, is we established a mentor program. So can you talk a little bit about the mentor program? And then the other thing that I would be walking into next would be the FTO.
Yeah, so the FTO is our field training officer. That's where
Thank
you
you.
would be paired
We
with
love some acronyms here.
Yeah, it's a state agency.
Yep.
Before we get into the FTO, which is a great program and benefits us all, we're going to talk about the mentor program first.
Great.
So it's not at the end of the 22 weeks. It's at the end of the OPATA, and that's when you would start the FTO, after the wildlife officer portion and the FTO, or the OPATA portion. But mentor program, talk about it, Jim.
Well, it's a great program. This is actually your first week of being hired as a cadet. So right away, when you start your process as a cadet, right in our orientation week, you'll be paired with an experienced officer in the mentorship program, as you said, John. So you'll have a peer mentor who is an officer with some experience. Maybe they were in the academy fairly recently. Maybe they've been on for a little bit, but they will be able to just be a help, a sounding board, check in with you throughout your entire cadet process. And we found that the program, huge benefits. It gives our cadets an opportunity to continue to learn more about the division, to meet some great officers that they're going to work with, and also help them during this stressful time, busy time of navigating the academy. They're going to hear from me every day, which, depending, pros and cons to that. If you're a cadet, my role is to help them be successful and get them to the end of their academy. But our mentors have a great role of just being there to help guide them, listen to them, and try to make this process as exciting as possible.
Yeah, I had a little side story. When I was going through the academy myself, on the weekends, I still had friends who were in college pursuing their careers, and it wasn't easy to go and hang out and talk to folks who didn't know the stress that I had all week, not having my boots shined right and have to do some push-ups and things like that.
The things you were learning.
Yeah. So I think I was able to participate in the mentor program this past year. So I was paired with a new officer, and I think it was great for him. I believe it was. And I believe it was good for me. It reinvigorated my love of the career, and it also reminded me of, hey, we all start somewhere.
Yeah.
So I think it's a great program. I'm glad that the division has started that, and we're working forward. So the FTO program is a different program.
So after our cadets have completed their wildlife officer training, they've graduated, they've got their assignments, they're in the field. I like to tell everyone that, we have given them all the tools and the training to hit the ground running. So now they're going to get on-the-job training, that field training program where most days they will be working with an experienced officer. And John, I know you've also been a field training officer. So although they'll be doing all the duties of a wildlife officer, they'll have responsibilities, calls, situations, assignments. They'll have a field training officer with them most days to help guide them through that program, make sure they're familiar with equipment, with their assignment, and that lasts for about 6 months. So again, another investment that we're making and preparing them to do the job and be successful.
I think the only thing that comes to my mind that we may want to cover is we got 88 counties. We have an officer in all 88 counties. So I'm really interested in going through this. How do we decide who goes where? How's that done?
Well, we look at what is vacant. We'll have officers being promoted, retiring, so we will have some assignments that are vacant by the time our cadets are hired or by the time they finish their training. So it is a process, but we do ask all of our cadets for their input. we try to tell them these are opportunities, these are where our vacancies may be. Fayette County, well, you're not going anywhere, John, right? I mean, well, you are off probation, so
I think so.
Your first county, though, was Cuyahoga?
I was at large in District 3 Unit A, so I lived in Cuyahoga County, but I worked Lorain County, Cuyahoga, Lake Geauga, and Ashtabula, which is the same neck of the woods where Jim was when he got out.
The busy section, too.
It is. Lots of folks, lots of resource.
So, and I used Fayette as an example. It could be any county, or we will have new officers working in a district. They'll be at large working in a handful of counties. So we do give the cadets some input on where they would like to be assigned. Now, of course, the final decision is going to be the Division of Wildlife's based on need and skill sets, but we do give them some input, and every officer will have their assignment by the time they graduate. Potentially, even when they're hired, we'll already be able to tell them where they're going to go.
Yeah, and I tell folks, don't look at it at a short term. It's a long term. If you hope to work the whole career here, you may start off somewhere like District 3 Unit A, Cuyahoga County, Cleveland area. But then I had the opportunity to go to Fayette. I wasn't really familiar with Fayette, but now I've stayed there. It's a county that is home to me now. Yeah. I had goals of maybe going further south or closer to where I was originally from, but you never know where the career is going to take you and what you enjoy to do. It's been eye-opening for me.
I imagine, too, also being the one officer per county, you have maybe a level of celebrity.
I wouldn't call it celebrity. It depends. Different
Infamy,
counties.
Public,
perhaps infamy.
High-profile public figure because you're the one that people call.
Yeah, there is that, and different counties are going to have different demands. A lot of that, you back me up on this, is the people of the county. Lots of folks, the officer's going to have a lot more demand on them because people are going to have interactions with wildlife, and you're the professional who they're going to call first.
Do you get stopped in the grocery store?
I do, yes. Not all officers probably do, and not all places, but yeah, in smaller communities for sure.
Well, Ohio's a very diverse state. We have a lot of people, but we have a lot of resource from Lake Erie to the Ohio River. The great thing about the wildlife officer career is you could be assigned to a particular area, but many of our officers, if you're working in southern Ohio in the foothills of Appalachia, you may spend some time patrolling Lake Erie during the summer. You may travel around the state for various projects and assignments. So that also is a great opportunity for many officers. They do get to work various projects and various events throughout the state.
So yeah, there's multiple opportunities that we haven't even discussed. And to your point, I know we could talk about this all day, but we have a K-9 unit. You may be up on Lake Erie on a boat. You may be down on an ATV and doing ATV training. There's also expansion of, once you become an officer, roles and responsibilities and opportunities for you to be able to be part of this family, this team unit. John, you're on the waterfowl team. I'm not sure what the official title for that is, but what is it just a waterfowl identification team or
waterfowl class? So
horse class? Okay.
It's a like kind of related to the R3 training that we talked about. It's a week long where we take our officers and we delve into waterfowl enforcement, waterfowl ID. If not everyone has that experience with waterfowl hunting or enforcement, so we just make sure that we get that. We have a trappers academy the same
so I
way.
Knew nothing about trapping before working for the Division of Wildlife. Was fortunate enough to go through the trapping academy which is a law enforcement run program. And I came out like hooked, ready to go and continue to trap, every year since then. So lots of other opportunities.
So beyond a wildlife officer, once all of your training is complete, you're in the field, there are, as you both mentioned, a number of additional duty assignments and opportunities to, again, advance your career, showcase your interests, and I always like to say, do something a little more. We have officers who are canine handlers. We have officers who are instructors for firearms and self-defense. We have an honor guard team that represents us at events. We have field training officers. We have a team of officers that now have unmanned aerial systems, which are drones in common lingo, where we use that equipment on our state property to find people, evidence. That's a great tool, and we now have a team of officers utilizing that. We have a team of officers that are trained to find people through tracking skills. I could go on. The mentorship program, various levels of supervision and administration. So there are a lot of opportunities within your career as an Ohio wildlife officer to do so many different things and be involved that I think, again, that adds to the benefit of this career path.
Very good. So we haven't really gone into the history behind our wildlife officers, and we don't have time to get really into it, but with conservation-minded efforts, game wardens, wildlife officers, they were asked for by the constituents, by the people of Ohio, to see good, wise, proper use of a resource. So with that, it kind of leads me into this episode's pop quiz that John loves so much.
Super.
So what was the year, county, and name of our first female wildlife officer?
Ooh.
Threefold.
I can give you two answers.
Two?
I can give you the county, and I can give you the officer's last name.
I hope you can give me the county.
Fayette County.
All right,
And
we're
her
starting in the right
her
direction.
Last name was Zimmerman,
Okay.
but I don't remember the first.
Abby, do you know it?
What was-
Wait. Q, do you know it?
Rosetta.
Rosetta was the
Do you know
first
the
name.
year? Do you know the year, Jim?
It was
A
when he
long
was
time
born.
ago.
1920.
1920. Yeah. Very nice. So we just here recently had like a history overview of the Game Commission, wildlife officers, and that was one of the things that came out of that stuck out to me. So
Well, we are the oldest state law enforcement agency. Am I correct on that, Q?
Yes, there is some historical information. 1886 was the first wildlife officer, game protector, game warden back then, but that is not too far after the Civil War, and the emphasis was on protecting fisheries stocks and wildlife from exploitation. And as Jordan said, that was something that the legislature created because the people wanted some conservation.
yeah, it's hard to go fishing when there's no fish.
And really, that is the same career that we have today. So
Absolutely.
we're out there making sure that everybody's getting the same game for sure.
We've traded in horses for trucks now.
Absolutely, 4-wheel drive vehicles.
Yeah.
I guess they just don't have hooves. So where are we at on the career path? They're in the FTO program. They get out of that. They're a full-blown wildlife officer assigned to their county. We've talked about where county assignments are. Is there any last cool information that we want to share with the public about the career?
You've got me hyped up. I know where to go to find out information on what I need to be looking at, but what if I want to see some in-person stuff?
Oh, yeah.
Is there something I can be doing to, I think it's always good to reach out to your district office, start to get your name, face recognized with those folks. It's okay to come by a district office and ask to speak with the district manager or the law supervisor. Just introduce yourself. We enjoy that. But I think there's some events coming up here in the near future. I don't necessarily need dates, but where would I find information about some in-person promotional or recruitment that you're doing, Q?
Yes, so all around Ohio this summer, starting this month, running through September, we have in-person recruiting events. So these will be events, a couple hours, 2, 3, 4 hours, where people have an opportunity to meet officers. We'll have a presentation on the job, discuss a lot of the qualifications and training that we've talked about here. You'll also get to see some cool equipment that wildlife officers use, talk to supervisors, and give you a chance to ask some questions. And most importantly, these would be for people who might be interested and are qualified to apply for our next academy, but equally important, maybe they're people who are still thinking about the career. Maybe you're still in school. Maybe you're in high school and you want to bring your parents with you to learn a little bit more and decide, is this a career for me in the future? So all of those events are available now. People can register for them. We just have a registration so we know how many are attending, and you can find those on our website. Again, www.ohiodnr.gov/become a wildlife officer. Our recruiting events are there. You can also call 1-800-WILDLIFE and ask for information about our cadet recruiting events. As you said, Jordan, contacting the wildlife officer assigned to your county, always a great opportunity. Going to one of our 5 wildlife districts, and those are on our website or in the back of the Hunting and Fishing Digest. You can find your district office and just introducing yourself and making sure that you're meeting people and learning more about the career. A great opportunity to prepare yourself this summer.
I also always pitch volunteering. If you live anywhere near one of our wildlife areas or any area that has a fish hatchery, somewhere where you have the opportunity to volunteer, get to know folks. Also, jumping off of what Jim said about contacting your county officer, we do have a ride-along program. So you would have to fill out that information, it has to go through the supervisor, and then you could be paired with an officer and do a ride-along. A lot of the times that's a great eye-opening experience. Folks get to see, on the day-to-day basis on what a wildlife officer does.
Well, thanks for taking time to be with us today. Appreciate it. For all of you listeners, we hope that this has been exciting for you. We hope to see you at some of the open houses. John, you have anything else you'd like to add?
No, unless Q, I often pitch it out there to our guests. If there's anything that you want to talk to the public, and you do get to talk, people reach out to you pursuing the career, but is there anything, you've covered a lot, any last words that hopefully if you hear somebody's ear today, that's going to set them in the right path?
I think if people are thinking this might be an opportunity for me, I would encourage them to jump at it, to apply, to come take our test. That really doesn't require a ton of effort early on. So make that leap. Contact a wildlife officer assigned to your county. Email us, visit with us, find a little bit more. And there's probably a lot of people listening who say, okay, it might not be for me, but I know people. And that is a great way that this career gets out there. Everybody knows somebody who is interested in the outdoors, law enforcement, and this may be an opportunity for them. Also, follow us on social media. Our wildlife officers are often featured there with some of the things they're doing. That's exciting, and take this opportunity to learn more.
Well, I thank you for coming, Jim. I appreciate the time. I hope that this helps folks who are interested in the wildlife officer career. But for our listeners, thank you for joining us today. We hope you enjoyed this conversation we had about wildlife officers here in the state of Ohio. Don't forget to subscribe to the Wild Ohio podcast wherever you listen to podcasts. Tell your friends, tell your family. And in the meantime, we hope to see you outside.
Later.